Hey guys, so this is week 5 of the My 31 Nights of Halloween, and it's gonna be the final week. I'm a little sad that it's coming to an end because Halloween's my favorite holiday, and because I love the spookiness of it all, and I watch horror movies all year round. Most of the time, it's usually ones I've seen 50, 11 times, but I try to throw in new ones every now and again um, throughout the year um, to try to see um, new ones and all that. And um, like take for example, Sinners. I went to go see that earlier this year, and I actually watched the Wolfman, the one that came out in January. I went to go see that with my dad, and it's like spur of the moment and all that. I mean, I think that one had been out for a couple weeks, so it wasn't necessarily like a 2025 film, but I think that came out in December 2024, but that was new to me and all that. But um, yeah, um, I try to incorporate a horror movie or two at least every month, if not every single week or every single day. But I kind of, going off on a tangent here, but yeah, I think this was really fun. I mean, I'd love for everyone to, give me all the horror movies that they grew up watching, that they loved, that they watch every single year for spooky season, and new ones that you found that you actually quite enjoy that you didn't know if you'd like or not, or if you were pretty much sold that you weren't gonna like it, but actually didn't in fact like it. But getting into this week's movies, um, the movie I watched on the 26th was The Monkey. I actually quite enjoyed this one. Um, it's about two twin brothers, Bill and Hal, that find their father's old toy monkey in the attic when they were kids. And, a series of gruesome deaths start to happen. It's sort of like, think of Final Destination, except they one of them didn't get a permission about either themselves, the friends, and the people around them, whether they know them or not, die, and they come out of the premonition, and things start to happen exactly like as in the premonition that started to happen. And so think of it like that, except minus the premonition part. Um, but basically, deaths start to happen in weird and mysterious ways. Um, and, you know, once, the mysterious deaths start to kind of subside a little bit, they start to move on with their life, and they grow apart over the years. As far as Theo James, Tatiana Maslany, Christian Convery, Colin O'Brien, Adam Scott, and Elijah Wood. Um, it's an hour and 38 minutes long, so slightly longer than the typical horror movie hour and 30 minutes type, but not by much. It's less than 10 minutes. Um, you can go see this on Hulu, HBO Max, the like all the bundles on H or Hulu, I should say. Um, the one of the one pro that I really liked about this movie is that the deaths were rather creative, and in a way sort of funny. Um, not to kind of put a damper on death and all that. It's just I thought it was really creative, and I thought it was just trying to bring levity to a dark subject, and to horror in general. And I think they did it in a good way, because not all comedy and horror is good to me. Um, there were like for example, I watched Weapons earlier this year, and while it does have comedy in it, it wasn't necessarily my brand of comedy, so I didn't necessarily enjoy it as much as I would have loved to. But yeah, just to kind of give an example of like the horror or the comedy that takes place within a horror movie doesn't always necessarily translate that well to me, and so therefore I don't necessarily like the movie. But this sort of take on comedy I felt was um, good, and it actually made me laugh, and all that. The one con that I didn't necessarily like about the movie is that um, I think they could have shortened the time when the um, Bill and Hal characters were kids. Um, 'Cause it went on a little bit too long. I mean, I did like the fact that they showed them as kids and it kind of built up, but I think they spent maybe a little bit too much time, like, half the time was kids, and then the other half maybe was the adult Bill and Hal, but, otherwise, I think this movie was great. I think the kills were good, the family dynamics were it was written well, and I think they did good in incorporating comedy into it. So because of that, I give that a 4.5 out of 5. Now for night 27, I watched Can't Take It Back, um, and um, I the plot of the movie is that a group of students start to leave hateful comments on the page of a fellow student that recently committed suicide. It's ours, Anna Koto Noah. I'm not sure how if I'm pronouncing his last name right, but either Centennial or Centennial. Ivana Sakno, Lexi Atkins, Logan Paul, Meredith Foster, and Keith Pillow. It's an hour and 28 minutes, and it's currently streaming on Shutter, AMC Plus, and Prime Video with the Prime Video and Apple TV with AMC Plus and Shutter. Also, Philo as well. Um, I think Noah and Anna's performances were good for the most part. Anna's was a little bit less than Noah's, but not by much. Because there was like one or two scenes where she kind of it was she, she was it took me out a little bit. Um, so, but for the most part, they did a good job. They did what they needed to do for what uh, what the plot in um, director gave for this. But I have more cons here, unfortunately. For instance, I think they could have done better at pacing the backstory. Um, I didn't think that, and I didn't think that they explained it all that well. I think they, if I'm remembering correctly, they didn't necessarily explain all that well, or it went by so fast that it was unclear. So you were kind of forced to um, kind of go back and try to pay attention more in depth. And I think one of the male characters really wasn't needed. And if honestly he was written out entirely, I really wouldn't have missed him that much. Um, Now going back to Anna Kuddle's acting, I think if she uses if she has more time to get more role under her belt, I think her acting could be really solid, but that's, you know, one of the reasons why I didn't necessarily like it as much. And as far as the last con I really have for this is that um this does kind of give off the vibe that they were on a budget. There are times in the movie where I was feeling like eh, you can feel like this is a low budget movie. Um, I mean, that's not to say that it's a bad thing because one of my favorite horror movies is Halloween, the original Halloween, and that was on a low budget for the late 1970s. And it didn't feel like that. It felt because John Carpenter was able to um, he was able to create a good story um, with I can't remember her name at the moment. I'm blanking on her name. Um, Let me see. With He was able to create a good story with Deborah Hill, and they had good actors. They had, you know, really good people who really wanted to act and loved acting and all that stuff. And they took their job seriously. That's to say that not everyone in this movie didn't do that. It's just that um, there's only so much that you can do with like a like people enjoy when you have such a limited budget and you have um such a some people don't really seem to take their job too seriously. So I mean, and with all of that, I gave it like a 3.5 out of 5 because it was like it was a decent plot and there was good acting in with some of these actors and actresses. It's just that with all the cons in there, it just didn't do it for me too much. So unfortunately, now for night 28, I watched The Mummy's Ghost. This goes all the way back to 1944, so um, not as far back as 1930s, but um, it's still one of the older films that I watched this year. But basically, it's about a mummy named Karis, who's given, you know, a sacred potion that grants him eternal life to search for his lost love, Princess Ananka, despite the unending curse that haunts both of them. It stars Lon Chaney Jr., John Carradine, Robert Lowry, Ramsey Ames, and Barton McLean. It's only an hour, so that's good. And it's currently streaming on Peacock at the moment. Um, for the time period that this was filmed, I think The Mummy looks really, really good. Um, because, you know, Hollywood is starting to find its footing with the movie industry. And so it, it's not as clunky and um, obvious as it being low budget for special effects as, say, in the early days of like the 1920s. But it definitely was finding its footing back then. So I think, like I said, I think the Mummy looked really good. Um, the movements, we don't know what mummies would, technically how they would walk and all that. So, I mean, the guy who plays the mummy, did his best to try to emulate what he thinks how a mummy would walk. Um, and I'm not gonna knock it too much. I mean, it is what it is. Um, and we've had several different interpretations of how a mummy would walk. More recently with like the mummy with Brendan Fraser and I'll always blink on these people's names, so forgive me. Um, but Rachel Weisz and John Hannah, they the, the mummy was, walking around more like how a human would walk. So, but like I said, I'm not gonna knock, the guy who plays the mummy too hard for how he was walking. I think it was fine. Um, there's, like I said, they're still trying to, in some aspects, like with this particular instance with the how the mummy walks, they're still trying to figure out how to, um, you know, interpret what they think it would, walk like and all that stuff. But um, the mummy looked good. That mummy acting was fine. In some parts, as far as the con goes, the acting was a little hokey. Particularly with characters fainting and or dying, I should say, as well. So, I mean, I mean, so yeah, I mean, it's a little better um, than some other films, but it's still more middle of the road. But if you really enjoy more of the old time movies, like 1930s, 1940s, and 50 movies, I think you'll like this one. Um, so, but I mean, for me, it's more middle of the road, just because I'm more of the um, modern horror movies myself. Um, but I mean, all in all, not terrible. I mean, especially if for an hour movie, it's not that bad. Um, Now, the movie I watched for Night 29 is Cabin in the Woods. Um, the plot of the movie is where five college students head off for the weekend at a secluded cabin in the woods, only to arrive and fight for their lives. It stars Kristen Connolly, a baby, so to speak, sort of Chris Hemsworth, Anna Hutchinson, Fran Kranz, also maybe Jesse Williams. I'm not sure if this is before or after he started playing in Grey's Anatomy, but it was before. Then baby Jesse Williams, Richard Jenkins, Bradley Whitfield, and Brian White. It's an hour and 35 minutes, so about the typical time for the normal runtime for a horror movie. It's currently streaming on Peacock and Hulu. And just to kind of forewarn you, when I say it's streaming on a certain place, except for like Shutter specifically, these movies tend to have a limited shelf life of when it's on a streaming platform. So just keep in mind that if you um, want to watch any of these movies, if you have not, um, you should check out Just Watch, so that way if it gets taken off of, say, like if it's on Netflix currently but it then gets taken off by the time you want to go watch it, just check out that um, site so that way you can see where it's currently streaming. And if it's not currently streaming, where you can rent or buy the movie specifically, because they do have a list of where movies tend to be renting and or bought at. Um, and that way you can go there to the whichever platform and rent it or buy it. But anyways, the pros for the Cabin in the Woods, it's definitely a different take on a horror movie. I think it's to me it's like a mix of the Truman Show and Escape Room. And if you watch either one of those movies, you kind of understand what I'm talking about. I know the Truman Show isn't really a horror movie, but um, like I said, if you've seen that movie, I know kind of what I'm talking about, and you'll definitely know what I mean if you watch The Cabin in the Woods. Um, the look of the bad guys that were in the movie, like the villains, serial killers or whatever, they were really cool from what we did see. And that was a little bit of a con for me, is that I kind of wish we had um, more of a glimpse of them, but you know, it is what it is. You can only do so much in an hour and a half. Um, as far as a con goes, I wouldn't have minded them showing why this was all happening to these characters a lot sooner, because the last scene, like the last like 10 minutes, 10-15 minutes is where you get the reason why this is all happening. And I wish we kind of had that in in the first like 30 minutes, because to me it falls flat that they waited until literally like the last 15-20 minutes to tell you, not even like 20 minutes, like the last 10 minutes if that. And it's like, are you really expecting me to sympathize with these people's plight as to why they're doing this? Because if you are, I don't care. Because um with I mean, and this is not a horror movie either, but with Black Panther, the first Black Panther, when I went to go see it, and I've seen it since going to see it in the theaters, I always sympathized with um, Killmonger's reasoning for why he was doing what he was doing. And that was, I think, the very first time I ever sympathized with a villain's story and why they did what they did. Um, and honestly, I might have actually cared about um, I might have cared about the reasoning for why these people were doing what they were doing if we had gotten it sooner. And we got a little bit more backstory on these people, but we go straight into these people doing what they're doing, and no more rhyme or reason. And I'm a person of, like, if you give me a rhyme or reason as to why you're doing something and it makes sense, okay, I can get behind it and I can be scared and I can sympathize and all that. But without any backstory, it's like I don't like. There's to me, there's no reason to really care. So you're not giving me a reason to care as to why these people are doing what they're doing. So it's like at that point, you lost me into really investing into this movie and really backing it and really um, enjoying the film and wanting to push this as to reason why people should go watch it. So, and with that, that's why I kind of give it like a 3.8 out of 5. Um, if they hadn't, because the plot is the real kind of, I mean, most of it was, you know, um, why I kind of liked it a lot. And the The fact that it was pretty different is why I liked it. Um, it's just the backstory was lacking, and it was only given like 10 minutes into it, 10 minutes left into it. This is kind of, and that's why I was like really not liking Until Dawn, because they waited so long to give us a reason to care for the main girl and or the protagonist, you want to if you want to call her that. um and why I gave it such a low rating. But I mean, otherwise I think the acting was really, it was decent, and it was um plausible as to why they like why the characters were doing what they were doing, and all that stuff. And um now for night 30, I watched The Wretched. It's about a teenage boy who is struggling with his parents' imminent divorce. So he faces off with a 1,000-year-old witch who is living beneath the skin of and posing as the woman next door. It stars John Paul Howard, Popper Curta, Jameson Jones, Azzy Tesfaye. I'm not sure if I said the last name right, but Zara Mahler, Kevin Bigley, Gabriella Kazeda, and Richard Ellis. It's an hour and 35 minutes. You can watch it on Hulu, Netflix, Shutter, AMC Plus, and Prime Video with the AMC Plus and Shutter add-on, along with Philo. Um, it reminded me a little bit of Cabin Fever, and because liking Cabin Fever, people were getting infected one by one by one. But in that case, it was because they were drinking water, and that's how they were getting infected. And the take on how these people were getting infected was great. I think it was definitely something I don't remember ever seeing before. Um, I think the build up is good and nicely paced. Um, I definitely like the fact that the parents and 'cause I don't want to give too much away, because I feel like if I um, say this, I might give a little bit away, too much away, maybe, or I don't know. But um, the fact that parents um, in relation to their kids was kind of different. I'm hoping that makes sense, but if not, I could kind of explain a little bit further um, once you watch the movie, or if you've seen the movie, and I can kind of explain it. But and there the twist at the end was definitely good, and I think it may. I mean, I don't know if it'll get a sequel, but um, if it doesn't, I mean, it, or has not yet, I think it sets up to um, give way to a sequel. Um, so I mean, I think it was pretty good overall. So I kind of give this a 4.5 out of 5. I'm not entirely sure if I would ever watch this again, but I did really enjoy it though. So that's the only reason why I kind of gave it like not a 5 out of 5. Um, and for tonight, I watched um, Hellfest and Hocus Pocus. I started with Hellfest first, and I own both of these movies, but I do have a list of where you can watch them. So basically, for Hellfest, it's about a masked serial killer turning a horror themed amusement park into his own personal playground. Um, and he terrorizes a group of friends while the rest of the patrons believe that it's all part of the show. Um, the plot of Hocus Pocus, a teenage boy named Max, along with his little sister Danny, moved to Salem from California. And he struggles to fit in before waking a trio of diabolical witches that were executed in the 17th century. For Hellfest, it stars Cynthia Mercado, Stephen Conroy, Amy Forsyth, Rain Edwards, Bex Taylor Klaus, Christian James, Matt Mercurio, um, and Roby Adel. Um, Hocus Pocus stars Bette Midler, Sarah Jessica Parker, Kathy Najimy, Omri Katz, Thora Birch, Vanessa Shaw, and Sean Murray. Hellfest is an hour and 29 minutes, while Hocus Pocus is an hour and 36 minutes. You can currently watch Hellfest on the Roku channel, Plex, um, and Prime Video with the Movie Sphere Plus channel. Hocus Pocus is streaming on Disney Plus and Hulu with the different um, add-ons like Disney Plus, HBO Max, and ESPN. So the pros for um, Hellfest is that I love the killer the killer chooses, and I think that there's a little scene where when he gets home that um, indicates that he has more than one mask. So that's to sort of, I guess, um, because he's a serial killer, it allows him to blend in. And I assume because this he goes to this sort of spooky amusement park. There's several different or the same kind of masks that is mass produced and sold so that people can um, um, wear them as well. Um, but I did like the mask that he had on his wall. I think that they looked really gruesome, and it kind of reminded me of that one two-part episode uh, of Goosebumps where it's the haunted mask and then the haunted mask 2 where um, like the shopkeeper had several different masks that he um, in his private collection. Um, but yeah, I mean, because I think there was in the haunted mat in the Goosebumps episode, there was 6, maybe 7 haunted masks. And in this there was only like 5, so it was not that much less, but there wasn't as many. Um, there was one con that I didn't necessarily um, that I took off points for, and that was the protagonist acting a little bit. So there's like one scene where she encountered the serial killer, and he was doing his thing in front of her, and I mean, I don't know why, but it looked like she was enjoying watching him. And eh, I don't know if that's what she was trying to do, but I don't know. It seemed weird. And I don't know. Um, it didn't land for me too much. But otherwise, I like this film, and I give it a 4.8 out of 5. Um, Now, as far as the Hocus Pocus pros and cons, um, I'll try to get the cons out of the way just because there's not very many. But I did enjoy, or I didn't really. I mean, the cons that I have are is just that um, it's because it's more of a kids movie. I mean, unless you really grew up watching this, you might think the scenes are like the entirety of the movie is rather inane, maybe. You might not like it just because um kids are doing what kids do and not really thinking things through. And so if you rather um have more of an adult film, this really wouldn't be for you. Um but otherwise, I mean, I think this is Hocus Pocus is a really good family friendly film. I think it's has a good there's like a sort of like song in the middle of it that I really enjoy. And I always sing it when it comes on. And I think the plot is solid, the acting is solid. Um, and especially for the type of audience it's for, I think it's pretty solid all the way around. Um, and so that's why I kind of give it like a 5 out of 5. Um, but yeah. Now, as far as my say like top 5 movies, um, uh, out of all the ones that I've watched so far this year, um, definitely without a doubt, number one goes to Sinners, because I think the plot was amazing, the music was just as amazing, the acting was phenomenal. Um, and a close second is Hocus Pocus because I grew up watching that, and like I said just now, I think the plot, acting, and directing was solid, given what the audience is or who the audience is. Um, I would say third is the Mortuary Collection, just because um, I was getting a lot of different things from that film, particularly like Are You Afraid of the Dark? Um, like Are You Afraid of the Dark? And sorry, I'm trying to find my um, notes on it. Um, sorry. It's okay. There it is. But yeah, I was getting a lot of Are You Afraid of the Dark? Goosebumps, scary stories to tell in the dark. Um, and like a children's version of Tales from the Crypt. Um, and I'm all for like nostalgia. As long as the story is good and the directing is good and the acting is good. And I think the uh, special effects was pretty good. Um, Number four is I think um, let's see. I want to say The Blackening, just because I really do enjoy a uh, good horror that can make me laugh throughout the entire movie. And um, I mean, other than like a few minor things, I think that did a really good job of um, like the acting in some parts. I enjoy the acting, the plot, the humor, and all of that. So that's number 4 on my list. Um, as far as and the last one goes, as far as 5 goes, I think I would put 13 Ghosts because I really enjoyed the look of all the ghosts. I think that really sold it for me. Um, particularly ghost number um, particularly ghost number 10 and ghost number 12. Um, so I really think that I mean these movies didn't it's not like they didn't have their issues, but these are the 5 that I really enjoyed watching this year. Some of them obviously I've watched before. Um, others I haven't. I only watched either for the first time this year or um, whether it was during spooky season or actually earlier in the year, like April-ish. But I'm looking at Tube Centers, but yeah. Um, yeah, those are my top 5 for the year. If you have a top 5 of your own, of your life, or for this particular spooky season, I would love to hear it. I would love to interact and, get recommendations for movies that you didn't see me sort of touch on this year. And I can let you know, hey, I've seen that before and I wouldn't mind seeing again and giving my thoughts once I get a refresher. But yeah, this has been fun. And I might, throw in, horror movie here or there later on. But I wanna focus more on, the TV shows because that's what I spend most of my time watching, but, I'll try to see if I can do this every year and, make it a thing since I tend to watch, do or 31 Nights of Halloween every single year, and, um but yeah, let me know what, you guys enjoyed as far as the list I've given for movies that I watched this year, and let me know what your all time favorites are, what your all time favorites were this year, and I will see you guys in the comments. Bye.